Well, good evening once again. It's Monday night, it's 8 o'clock, and as usual, we have the Monday Review Show where we discuss all things referees and refereeing. If you'd like to make a comment or contribute in some way to the show, you're more than welcome to. There's a little thing down there on the right hand corner of your screen where you can make a comment or even ask a question. And so I'm delighted once again to be joined by my very good friend from the UK, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL. They're the guys who look after referees in the Premier League and Championship. And also the man responsible, if that's a good, and I mean that in a nice way, for the goal line technology, which is working absolutely super duper. You may have seen referees looking at their watch and they have that little thing there that tells them whether the whole of the ball, and I stress the whole of the ball, has crossed the line or not. Keith Hackett, thanks very much again for joining me.
Delighted to be on the show.
I just want to start off, Keith. They're experimenting now. My goodness. Different color cards and different color this, that, and the other. And they were going to bring in I don't know, was it a pink card for it's not a sending off, but the guy gets a yellow card and he gets another chance, so they're going to show another card. Heavens above, have we not got enough cards? Now they're talking about a green card. And the green card is not your entrance into the USA, by the way, for those green card. This is now where the coaches will have two appeals. And I know it's not in the Premier League and they're still experimenting with it, but the coaches will have two appeals. I'm not sure if it's each half or for the whole game. And then they have to shut up and put up after that. I'm not sure I agree with that.
No, I think that what I've seen in cricket, where similar scenarios run with captains, one of the problems there is that they've exhausted their appeals, and then there's a decision of which the outcome is the wrong decision. It's reviewed by television rather than by the process, but they're coming out and saying, had he had this appeal, then that wicket might have gone. So I think there's a danger. I think that we all know the excitement that exists in the game, and my view is that it will be abused.
Oh, I think so too. And then what can they appeal against, assuming it comes to fruition? What can they? Are they going to appeal against free kicks, penalty kicks?
Well, I think that if the experiment that they're going to run will, I assume, look at the criteria that exist for the VAR intervention at the moment: mistaken identity, penalty kicks, offside, and red cards. And I think that that is, if you like, the four pillars that they'll stick to in that process. But again, we know sometimes, one of the things you've got is that managers have that, large technical staff available to them that can easily feed into the manager, as they do, and give an indication of what might happen. So, look, at the moment, I think everyone in the game is aware that VAR is not working the way it should do. I think it's over complex. I worry because I don't really feel that they've got to grips with what is clear and obvious. And you literally are only going to achieve that if you sit your group of referees in a room and you play video after video of incidents in games where you say the threshold is reached for your intervention, the threshold is not reached, therefore do not intervene. And I think we've got to get to a criteria where we say, look, the ownership of the game and its decisions, we might think differently about offside, but I think the remainder should be with the referee. So I I've listened in now to how the VAR, Darren England, convinced Jared Gillett, the referee, and persuaded Jared Gillett not to award a penalty kick when in the first instance he'd made a completely correct decision. And I thought that was, listening in, I thought it was an overindulgence by the VAR, and I was left with the impression the VAR's made this call and the referees, if you like, walked away from it. And I don't like mentioning the individual referees, but this is across the group.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not just one or two, it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
What is the real problem, though, Keith? I mean, are the referees just scared to make this decision in case that somebody does a forensic on the incident and sees that they were turned out? And where does it leave Law 5 now that says the referee's decision is final?
Yeah, I think that, you know, VAR is a support tool.
Yeah.
And I have no doubts that technology can help the process, but it's like everything else. I mean, I'm quite capable of sitting in the pilot's seat of a 747 and there it stops because I wouldn't have a clue which button to press and what to do. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, somebody's going to train me. They're not, because I don't want to fly, be a pilot. But the reality is that what these guys have got to understand, one, they're working in a business environment that is millions and millions and millions of pounds. There's a high expectation that they get the decisions right. When they get them wrong, right, that's when you start to do the training and forensic examination of why they got it wrong. So if we go back to our discussion last week, where we had in that penalty area a deliberate pullback of a player, the penalty kick was awarded, but the red card for denial wasn't. So then out comes the PGMOL or the Premier League spokesperson to the BBC and states the player was not in control of the ball, therefore it wasn't the denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Discussed by the panel on BBC Match of the Day. I was wanting to scream at the television set.
Yeah, of course.
Because the law, as we pointed out, states quite clearly it's the likelihood of controlling the ball. And there is no doubt for me, lots of other people, that other referees around the world, this was a clear denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity.
See, something you mentioned there, Keith, that he wasn't in control, or the likelihood. See, those grey areas, and they're very ambiguous. So it really leaves the decision up to the referee. So he's going to be nailed or hammered one way or the other if he does give it or he doesn't give it. It's not black and white, it's grey.
Yeah. Well, this is where the training comes in, and this is why we have VAR. Because, you know, the referee's only got one view.
Yeah. And
he may not have got the best viewing angle. And denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, he's got to judge distance from goal. He's got to judge, are there any defenders in that situation? He's got to judge whether the person who's committed the foul, either the defender or the goalkeeper, has he made a genuine attempt for the ball? Now, it's very clear in the laws of the game in terms of a pullback. He's not made an attempt to play the ball. Then what you've got is you've got the ball that's available. And you know, when I coach referees, this is what I say to them. I want you to visualize that the offender is not there. I want you to take away the offender. If you take away that pullback, is the player going to have a shot on goal? And this is an easy decision. This one was an easy call. Neither the referee or the VAR came in to judge whether that was the denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. But it popped up, the answer, he failed to control the ball. Wrong in law. And then this week, a couple of days ago, I think it was, Howard Webb coming out and saying, we got this one wrong. Why has it taken him so long to actually admit it's an error? And the only way I can see that he's done that is that the club Manchester United, who were involved in that, have submitted a letter requesting more information surrounding that. Now, look, clubs know the laws of the game. They can read on social media, as you know, my comments or anyone else's comments about quoting law incorrectly. So if it goes back to the basics in refereeing, the basics are you have to have a thorough knowledge of the laws of the game, and you've got to have knowledge, and you build that knowledge through experience of how you apply the laws of the game. And yes, there's a great deal of subjectivity in the decisions, but we want referees to have courage. We want referees to have, as law states, the judge, he's in charge of this game.
Of course, yeah.
And he should make the call.
Here's a comment from a gentleman, a very good friend of mine, and he's saying, evening, Errol and Keith, surely the role of the assistant referee remains to assist the referee to come to a correct decision. Has that now changed? That's
a great question. I think that I think that what we genuinely see is that the role. Look, I left when I left the PGMOL. I can assure you that one of the things that I was in awe of, because I was a pretty poor assistant referee, linesman then, and it's a special skill set. And there were a number of assistant referees, Philip Sharp, Glenn Turner, Darren Can, Mike Malarkey. These were guys who were absolutely brilliant at running the line. And Darren Can, you know, on numerous occasions, pulled Howard Webb out of the mire by the very nature of his involvement, his knowledge and everything. So the answer to the question is they're not being encouraged in the process to clarify the decisions that are being made. And I think when we look at the Premier League and we look at the VAR and where it sits, even the referee is actually going with the VAR when at times he needs to say to the VAR, get lost. I've seen what I've seen. I'm sticking with my decision, mate. Oh, and by the way, how much longer to go? Because at the moment, don't come in again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm quite clear. I think you've got to be, you know, I've seen it and you have seen it. You've seen in those big games, you get 2 assistant referees, 2 linesmen in our era, and a massive game, and they want to get involved.
Yeah.
They want to come in on anything. They're almost like that cock gun. I'm waiting for that first decision that I can hit the flag. And sometimes they come in when you don't want them to come in.
And you know what annoys me even more, sorry, Keith, to cut across you. What annoys me, oh my God, is the assistant referees, the linesmen, wanting to engage a substitute coming on. They want to engage him in a conversation. Why? For heaven's sake, the guy doesn't want to talk to you. He's still got his coach's instructions in his head, and now you're disrupting his training. Why do they want to get involved? My God.
I think you know, I think there are times when I see referees engaging with players or doing something, and I'm going, concentrate on this weekend, right? In law, the referee's correct. No, I want to make this point clear.
Yeah, law 5, yeah.
So here we've got a situation where Chelsea score a winning goal on what has been a fantastic game. There's no question, this was a really, really good game. And the referee, in fairness, I thought refereed quite well. So now what have we got? The manager, and we're in the final seconds of the game, who's already on a yellow card, belts down the touchline he's full of joy, full of almost lose self-control, you know, because his team have scored the winning goal and they beat Liverpool. What does he get? He gets a second yellow card. And I'm going, you know, use the yellow card when it's good for you as a referee, when it helps you control the game. And that finished up a red card. The manager will spend a 3-match ban or whatever. And I say to myself, why did you get engaged in that?
I'll come back to that in a moment because I have a similar type thing. I just want to remind viewers that you're watching the Monday Review Show, where we talk all things refereeing. And if you'd like to make comments or make any contribution to the show, you're more than welcome to do so. And I'm joined this evening, as always, by former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL, and the man responsible for introducing goal line technology, Keith Hackett. Just on that point you mentioned, Keith, last week, in a similar situation, or could the same parallel be drawn? Etiketi or whatever, I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name wrong, incorrectly, from Liverpool. He was on a yellow card. He was so excited at scoring a goal, takes off his jersey. He also gets a red card. Would you speak to him in that instance?
No, I think that is entirely correct. I'm very clear of differentiating here. The player, in removing his shirt, has committed a cautionable offence, and therefore right that he receives the second yellow card. Because
so we'll see devil's advocate, which you know.
I know, and
he also commit a cautionable by leaving his technical area.
Well, yes, of course he has, but again, you know, we're dealing at the elite level here. When we apply the law in terms of this situation of the removal of the shirt, I get asked often, why? What impact does it have? Let me tell you that in several countries around the world where football is played, showing the upper body, the skin, if you like, is contrary to their, if you like, religion. Of course, the other side of it is lifting the shirt. You've got a T-shirt with either a comment in terms of, again, politics or religion. Yeah. So that is the scenario. He's on the field. I've seen it. I'm going to act. The guy running down the touchline that's on a yellow card, and I've got seconds of the game remaining, right? I'm going to be saying no. If it's his first yellow, I might, but if it's going to be a red, no. Now, that is my view about the referee applying a little bit of common sense and a little bit of flexibility. Now, you've got people listening to this show that will say, Keith, you're wrong because of the law and he has left the technical area. We're talking about seconds here. We're not talking about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. The game is as good as over. And I just think that he could have managed it. in the same way that I think he could have managed the first yellow card.
Okay, the Leeds Spurs game, there was a bottle thrown in that game,
Oh,
and not for the first time.
no. I'm quite clear here. I thought the referee acted very sensibly. That was to pick up the bottle and walk towards the ground controller. Obviously on the way, making comments that he wanted to speak to the individual, which he did. And he handed the bottle to the chief officer.
And it came out of the Leeds United area, or the area occupied by Leeds fans, yeah.
Yeah. So the scenario here is that I was surprised that Leeds didn't react by putting additional stewards in that area. That's the first thing. I would have liked to have seen straight engagement, stewards there watching. And I hope that with the security that's available at Premier League grounds in particular, Championship as well in England, where the police train on their cameras on spectators, that they may well find out who that person is. You know, what they're able to do is look at the area, where the bottle came from, look at the video in terms of the action, and obviously get the seat number and a number of seats in that area, so they can actually get to that source fairly quickly. In the same way, you know, we had this weekend, you know, my club, the club I've supported since a kid, Sheffield Wednesday, are in all sorts of trouble through the owner. 10 minutes into the game, they made an announcement the day before that they would come onto the football field to actually complain about the owner. And I sent a message to BBC Radio Sheffield. I don't know whether it was broadcast or spoken. It was a written thing to the commentator. And I made it on social media and said, look, you need to think very seriously about coming onto a football field, because it is a criminal offence. They can get charged and they can be put in prison. Yeah. And this is Hillsborough, you know, where the tragedy happened, where all these things came into place because of that. And then the club, invariably, if someone is, first of all, identified and recognised, the first thing they do is take the season ticket off them. And they've done it, you know, and you suddenly go, look, there are ways to protest, and they've done some pretty good ways of protesting. But going onto the football field was not a good thing. I thought the referee on the day handled that pretty well. He wasn't fussy. He just stood back, watched, and then got the game underway. And talking about another performance, there was a referee in the Ipswich Norwich game. I've refereed that match. It's one of the most difficult games to referee. And I'm seriously looking at trying to get his name, and I'm not there yet. But this was a young referee, relatively speaking. I've not seen him referee before, but he had an outstanding performance. Really was a really good performance. And I put that on social media, and I got fans from both teams saying the same, agreeing that this referee had a very good game. And I'm really disappointed that I'm unable to get, because of all the comments that I made on matches this weekend, I can't get to his name quickly enough.
All right.
I'll keep looking.
Okay. The issue now, Keith, of players, and this is where a referee comes in as well, celebrating a goal at the opposition team's area, that can cause serious trouble and riots. And
yeah, the biggest problem centering around that, and why the law was brought in, that when a player runs off the field of play and onto the perimeter fence or into the crowd almost, then that is a clear cautionable offence. And the reasoning behind that is the danger, the real danger of a crowd surge coming to the wall to get involved in the celebration. And therefore, this is why the law's in. There was a game, and I don't know if it was in Africa or in South America, where a player did go to the perimeter fence to celebrate a goal, and the upper level of the stadium, there was a surge forward, and the wall gave way, and there were one or two spectators killed. And I can remember that. I'm going back a long time, and it may well have been a South American game, and that's when the FIFA came out and made very clear that change. I think that players have to think very wise about doing that celebration in front of the fans, because all it does is it winds them up.
Yeah, big time. Particularly if a team is struggling, and then you have this player winding up the fans of the losing team or the team that's just conceded the goal. I mean, but then from a refereeing point of view, what's the referee's responsibility there?
Well, the referee's responsibility is quite clear, and that is when the player, I wouldn't suggest to the referee that he goes and chases it down. I'm very mindful at the elite level that referees don't get too close to the perimeter of the state of the, if you like, the pitch.
Yeah.
Facing, because they're at risk of getting injured. We saw years ago, didn't we, that lighter thrown striking the referee, and that was almost career ending, because I think afterwards he decided to call it a day. A very, very good referee, a very experienced referee. So for me, I think that you've just got to be very careful.
But players need to show more restraint, and managers and coaches should also get involved in telling their players not to do that. Was it Nicolas Anelka some years ago? He was playing for Arsenal, and then he went to play for somebody, and he ran the length of the field down to the Arsenal fans because they were booing him. I think he might have gone to City, and then he ran down the pitch and he was celebrating in front of the Arsenal fans, whom he no longer Arsenal fans, and he was no longer playing for them, but he had just scored a goal against them, and there he was. I mean, that can cause serious injury and even deaths if there's a huge surge forward and someone's
absolutely. There's no question that is very much something to be avoided. Right, I'm now getting close to, and I don't know why, but the referee at the Ipswich Norwich game was Thomas Kirk. I suggest that's a referee that you need to keep an eye on. I was very impressed. I just said, look, Howard Webb, if you want some advice, bring him out onto a game. I mean, this weekend in the Aston Villa game, they used Andrew Kitchen, who I'd seen referee on a number of occasions and was impressed by his performance. So again, I think we need some fresh blood, because at the moment there's one or two referees on there that are not hitting the form and delivering the way they should do.
Keith, as usual, we've run out of time, and thank you very much again for joining me, and thank you out there for joining the show. We'll do it all again next week, next Monday, 8 o'clock. Until then, thank you for watching, and good night. Thanks, Keith.
Take care.